Yo, yo, yo. This week on the X-Factor Sportz Podcast, we tell you which NFL Primetime Games you want to watch coming up this season. Also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is he about to do something that KD and Russ couldn't do? And we give you the top 5 greatest NBA playoff performances of all time. So keep it locked right here. Episode 86 of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast starts right now. Yo, let's go. All right, let's get into it. The X-Factor Sportz Podcast, Season 8, Episode 2 has started right now. We are live on YouTube every Wednesday night, and you can catch us on all audio platforms that you like to listen to your podcast. All right, so I'm glad y'all tuned in tonight. We got a great show for you. So let's go ahead and get it started, okay? We're going to go ahead and get into the layup lines. We're going to start with Major League Baseball, of course. We just hit Memorial Day weekend. So periodically, that's how we're going to tap into baseball every holiday and kind of see where we are in the standings. Remember, back in Season 7, we gave the predictions of who we thought was going to win each division. So we're going to see where we are, see how right we've been so far, okay? So we'll start in the American League. In the East, the Yankees, we predicted them to win the East. They are the number 1 team in the American League East. They're in first place. The Astros are in the West. They are a game and a half behind the Seattle Mariners, which I'm surprised. The Mariners are currently in first place after a quarter through the MLB season through Memorial Day. So the Astros, they got time to catch up. Game and a half ain't really nothing. The Twins in American League Central, we picked them to win the Central this year, and they're 5 games back from Detroit. I might have got that one way wrong. Detroit's pitching staff is great. They do have the former Cy Young winner, or the reigning Cy Young winner, I should say, Tarek Skubal, and they got a rookie pitcher that's pretty good too. So their defense is probably the reason why they are in first place in the American League Central, but I got the Twins winning it. All right. In the National League, the Mets are a game behind the Phillies for the first place spot, but they playing the White Sox this week. So after that series is over, the Mets might be in first place. You never know. If you want to get some wins up, just play against the White Sox, as terrible as they've been this year. So we'll see how that continues to rise. The Dodgers in the West, of course, number 1 team in their division. We picked them to win the division, the West. And Shohei Ohtani has started pitching to live people this week. I don't know, all this that y'all have seen about Shohei Ohtani over the last year, hitting all these home runs and stealing bases, his biggest attribute is pitching. All right. And he just started pitching live balls this week to live batters. So you get him back on the mound, it's probably curtains for everybody. All right. So be on the lookout for Shohei Ohtani this summer. Might make his plate appearance or his on the mound appearance for the first time with the LA Dodgers. Then this one I was way off on. All right. The Brewers. I picked the Brewers to repeat winning the NL Central, but they 6.5 games back behind the Cubs. Cubs in first place, which I'm surprised by, honestly. I thought they just had a good month of April, but it turns out they actually are having a good season so far. But still early. Like I said, it's end of May. We got to get through the dog days of the summer. We're going to see war of attrition kicks in, injuries. We're going to see how these players fare out. But that's where we're at, a quarter of the way through the season. We got 2 of them right so far. We're a game and a half off on the Astros. We're 1 game off on the Mets. So I think we're in good shape. We can get at least 4 or 5 of these right out of 6. I'd say it's a pretty good predictor doing it before the season even started. So I'll keep y'all tapped in on MLB. Over to NHL, though. Stanley Cup Finals is getting close and closer, all right? Like I told y'all, the NHL and NBA seasons are pretty much in a line, right? So for those of my fans that don't really pay attention to NHL, they're in the Eastern Western Conference Finals as well. last night, the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers played. Edmonton ended up taking a 3-1 series lead. They're one game away from going back to the NHL final. All right, so Connor McDavid, best player in hockey right now, might have a chance for redemption. Tomorrow night, he can close them out and get to a final again and have a chance to win. Looks like he might play against the Florida Panthers in a rematch. They're playing right now against Carolina. They went up 3-1 on Monday, and they're playing right now to try to secure that. If the Florida Panthers win, they will make it to their third consecutive Stanley Cup final, right? The last team to do that was another team from Florida, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I don't know what's going on in Florida. I don't know what's in the water, what type of alligator meat they eating, but apparently they can play play hockey down there, right? Because a Southern team in the sun, no ice, as far as I can see, and now another Florida team about to make it to a Stanley Cup final. And if they win, they actually it'll be a back-to-back Stanley Cup because they won it last year against Edmonton. So I'll keep y'all locked in on that as well. I think we will have, by the next time, next week, we'll obviously be talking Stanley Cup final because we're already in game 5 of those series anyway. So moving on to the NBA, like I said, they're kind of on the same schedule. Pacers and Knicks last night in game 4, and the Pacers end up taking the lead 3-1, right? Knicks had a chance to tie up the series, played great in game 3 on Sunday, but couldn't get it done on Tuesday. What I'm seeing in this series, is the Knicks were built to beat the Boston Celtics, right? They saw what Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum did to them on the wings, and they went and got OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns to kind of match up evenly with the Celtics. Because in the playoffs, it's all about matchups. And what I'm seeing in this series is they are not built to run with the Pacers at all, right? The pace that the Pacers play at, the Knicks are not built for. They were built to beat a half-court, three-point shooting team like the Boston Celtics. And they were not built to beat this unorthodox style that the Pacers play. Tyrese Halliburton went crazy last night. 32-point triple-double, 15 assists, no turnovers, right? After playing a subpar game 3, his daddy was back in the building. He went crazy. And then Pascal Siakam showed up, gave him 30. We talked about that before the series started. I picked the Knicks to win this series, but we talked about the Pacers can make this series go 6 or 7 games. And if you get help from a Pascal Siakam, that could be the difference. And that seems to be the difference in this series right now. The way the Pacers are getting extra possessions, the pace of play, the extra shot attempts, and the contributions you get from other guys. Nembhard had a crazy game in this series. Siakam done had 2 great games. Halliburton been consistent. So he's just getting a lot from the Pacers side. Tomorrow they go to New York, try to close it out. And the Pacers can make their way back to an NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years. So crazy stuff. OKC, Minnesota. On Monday, OKC went up 3-1, winning the game in Minnesota. Shai went crazy again, over 30 points, MVP style. And Julius Randle has become unplayable in this series, right? Which is kind of crazy because we had him as one of the top 5 players in the playoffs this season, and he's become unplayable. You look at the last 2 games, game 3 and 4, in the fourth quarter, they can barely play him. He has not been dominating this matchup. And we talked about this again at the beginning of this series. OKC will win the series, but Chet is going to need to – he probably wasn't going to match the same output as Julius Randle, or so we thought. And so what I said was, if Chet can play almost as good as Julius Randle, OKC's definitely winning this series. Well, the reason OKC is up 3-1 and probably going to close this out tonight because the game's on right now is because Chet Holmgren has not only been matching Julius Randle, he's been outplaying him, right? He's been he's shooting the ball way better. If you look at the last two series, Julius Randle dominated his matchup. In this series, he's unplayable. Naz Reid ain't giving them much. And Nickeil Alexander's playing great because his cousin on the other side. But you got to take your hat off to Chet Holmgren. This dude stepped up in this series, and him and Jalen Williams is probably the reason why they're going to get to an NBA final, and it may be tonight. So the fact that they outplaying Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, he's getting outplayed too, right? So maybe they out of gas. I don't know, but it looked like somebody flipped the script on them. The last two series they played, they won in 5, and now they're about to probably get beaten 5 tonight. So what that does is segue us to this, right? We're going to keep it NBA, but we're going to talk about SGA. SGA is on the cusp of doing something that KD and Russ was not able to do, and that's bring a title to OKC, right? And the question is, can he do it? So I don't know if majority of people, maybe a lot of people don't know this, but in the NBA has been around for almost 80 years. In that 80 years, there's been 16 instances where an individual player has led the league in scoring and won MVP and won an NBA championship, all right? It doesn't happen very often. Typically, your MVP isn't always the leading scorer, typically doesn't win the title. So to get the trifecta, it's only happened 16 times in NBA history, all right? Michael Jordan's done it 4, okay? And for those of you who are familiar with MJ and the Bulls, they got 6 titles. So out of them 6 titles, in 4 of them, he was the scoring champ, league MVP, and they won a ring. So, and this was back in the days when he was being told that scoring champions couldn't win championships. So clearly proved him wrong. Shai has the opportunity to make that happen for the 17th time in NBA history. And here's why I think he can do it. This team is different from the KD and Russ OKC teams, even the second iteration with Russ by himself, the MVP Russ. This team now in 2025 is a lot different, right? They're a young team, but they're battle-tested. They got a lot of playoff experience now. So those are the similarities of that 2012 Thunder team that went to the finals, right? Young KD, Russ, Serge Ibaka, James Harden. Those are the similarities. Young, little bit of playoff experience, kind of chipping away and getting to a NBA championship. The biggest difference, though, I believe, is the depth of this team, right? The things that KD and Russ didn't have that this team does have is depth at all positions, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? Shai doesn't have to go out and score 40 every night for them to win. You got Jalen Williams. You got Chet, we just alluded to. You got contributions off the bench. Caruso, you got veteran leadership off the bench. They got a lot of things that the old Thunder teams in the 2010s didn't have, and I think that's the biggest separator. So whoever they play coming out of the Eastern Conference, OKC is going to have the better backcourt with Shai and Jalen Williams, 2 all-stars. They're going to have the bigger and taller front court with Hardenstein and Chet. And then you got arguably the best on-ball defender at the small forward position in Lou Dort, right? So if you're the Pacers or the Knicks, you ain't going to be able to hide nobody on the defensive side. And everybody on OKC starting lineup played defense, right? And I don't think people understand how tall Shai Gilgeous-Alexander actually is at the point guard position, right? He's the 3rd tallest dude in the starting lineup at point guard. Right? He's taller than Lou Dort. He's taller than J-Dub. I've seen him in person. I've seen him play. He is a legit 6'6". So he's always going to have the matchup edge over any point guard he plays against, right? Size-wise. He can shoot over anybody. He can get to his spots. He has the footwork to get around bigger defenders, and he's tall enough to shoot over smaller defenders. He can get to the line, right? If he gets hot from the three-point line, there's no way to guard him. And he's a willing passer. And he'll defend on the other end, led the team in blocks in the regular season. So the only thing that I would say about his game, and me and my boys kind of talked about this over the weekend, is the foul situation. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, I don't think he's hunting for fouls or looking for whistles. I don't think he's manipulating the rules like James Harden. He's not running down the court, holding people's arm and falling with them like Jalen Brunson does. But I don't like how they call fouls for him. So what I mean by that is when Shai is on the perimeter, because the refs call the games differently, right? If you're not familiar with how basketball games are called, anything above the free throw line or on the perimeter, you're not supposed to have contact or hand check the ball handler. So they're going to call it a little tighter above the free throw line, which is where Shai plays because he's the point guard. But when you get below the free throw line or when you get in the paint, they allow you to have contact and be a little more physical. What I don't like is that they call those same calls for him when he's driving to the hole or when he's playing around the rim. For one, you shouldn't be calling that anyway. And two, it's the playoffs, right? It's a contact sport. If he is going to the hole and he's initiating the contact, there shouldn't be a foul call. I'd rather it be a play on than any whistle at all, right? He's big enough to absorb the contact. So that's the one, if I had one critique about his game is he understands it. I mean, it's basketball IQ. I just wish the refs would identify that and let the guys play on because the refs watch film too. So at halftime, the refs are going into the locker room and they're watching the film of the first half because they want to see the momentum. They want to see how the game's being called, what mistakes or what adjustments they can make. If certain players are trying to manipulate the whistle and they adjust as well. So I feel like they need to do a better job of that when it comes to Shai, especially when he's around the paint. But other than that, I don't see any way that this OKC Thunder team doesn't get to the final and win it. Because from a matchup standpoint, like I said, the biggest separator between this OKC team and that KD and Russ team and why I think Shai is going to deliver an NBA title to Oklahoma City is because of the versatility and the depth of that team on both sides of the ball. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Will Shai and the OKC Thunder get it done? Will they be able to bring an NBA title to Oklahoma City? All right. The X-Factor Sportz Podcast on YouTube every Wednesday night and on all audio platforms. So that's Apple Podcasts, your Spotify's, your iHeartRadios, your Pandoras, your YouTube Musics, your Samsung Podcasts. Everywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can catch all 86 episodes of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. All right. Okay. So let's switch it up. We're going to go into the NFL real quick. So the schedule came out a couple weeks ago. And on that schedule, they always highlight the primetime games. So a lot of these games are now going to be on Netflix, Amazon Video, obviously on your normal networks, your Monday Night Footballs and your Sunday Night Footballs, Thursday nights, all that. So we're going to talk about the top 5 primetime games this year you want to make sure you watch and why, okay? So at number 1, the first one is Ravens and Bills, of course. That's week 1. They kick off the primetime games. That game's in Buffalo. So last year, this is a rematch of the divisional round. If anybody watched that game, right? I had the Ravens beating the Bills in the divisional round and getting to the Chiefs and losing to them to go to the Super Bowl. But the Bills had other plans. Josh Allen played great. But this will be a great rematch. It's week 1. You got the last 2 NFL MVPs, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, in Buffalo. That'll be a good one for sure. The second game, Lions versus Eagles. All right. So this is in week 11. So you got to mark your calendars for these top 5 games. Eagles and Lions, right? So many people thought that this should have been the NFC Championship game. Jaden Daniels and Washington had other plans. And I think this is going to be a litmus test for both teams. And by week 11, teams, you pretty much know what NFL teams are going to be by week 11, right? And what I'm going to be interested in seeing is, at this point of the season, are the Eagles good enough to repeat? Because they had some changes in their roster this offseason too. But are the Eagles good enough to repeat, right? And then are the Lions still formidable like they have been the last 2 years after losing both coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? By week 11, we're going to find out if they're still as good as they had been these last 2 seasons. Number 3, the third game, Washington Commanders at the Chiefs. The Commander-in-Chief game, right? Jaden Daniels comes to Arrowhead to play against Patrick Mahomes. The Super Bowl we almost would have had if the Eagles didn't crush them. Okay? So that's in week 8. We actually probably go to that game. I'm going to talk to Miss D, see if we can go, see what the weather look like. But week 8, Jaden Daniels in Kansas City. We're going to find out if this Washington Commander team was really legit from last year or if this was a fluke, if last season was a fluke. By week 8, we'll kind of get an idea if this team is for real or not. All right. Number 4, it is a game between 2 of the teams we've already talked about. Lions come to Arrowhead, and that's in week 6, right? That's a Sunday night game. Lions beat the Chiefs last 2 seasons in the regular season. It was early in the year. By week 6, usually the engines are revved up, everybody's warm, and the Chiefs are pretty much who they are going to be by week 6. They know how to win these games. They kind of start ramping up come September, October. So that'll be a fun Sunday night game. Will the Chiefs get revenge on the Detroit Lions in the regular season, or does it not matter? It could be a situation like it is with Buffalo. They play Buffalo every damn year because they're both always in first place in their divisions. And if you're in AFC, you play where you placed in the division last season. So there's a little tip for y'all. If y'all ever wonder how the schedules work, the reason the Chiefs always play the Bills is because they're always both first place in their division and they're in the same conference. So they'll play each other every year. So in this game, though, week 6, Lions-Chiefs, we'll see where the Chiefs are if they'll actually beat the Lions in the regular season. And then the last game, the Bears go to Philadelphia on Black Friday. Yes, I wish I could go to this game, but I'm definitely going to be watching it. We're going to see what Caleb Williams is about. Caleb versus Jalen Hurts. Again, litmus test. Eagles will be who they are going to be by week 13. They are the defending champs. The Bears, though, and this is why this is the number 5 game, because there are some expectations for the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson. By week 13, this offense should be off and running. Caleb Williams should have the offense kind of on tilt. So we'll see where the Chicago Bears are by week 13. This will be a litmus test for them. See how good they are against a defense like the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a Ben Johnson test game. This is a Caleb Williams game. Roma Dunze, all these young guys. We're going to see if the Bears are a for real team for the future in this game. So lock those in your calendar. We got week 1, Bills and Ravens. We got week 11, Lions go to Philly. We got week 8, Commanders go to Kansas City. Week 6, Lions come to Kansas City. And then week 13, the Bears at Philly. All right. If there are any other games, any other matchups I missed, y'all can go ahead and chat, tap it in. Let me know what y'all think. I'm sure some Cowboy fans will say, what about the Cowboys? They play primetime. I don't know why they get primetime games anymore. They ain't been good in forever. So, but I'm sure somebody go chat or come at me or say something on social media about Cowboys, Eagles games, but whatever. Y'all let me know what y'all think. If there are games that you think we should talk about, put them in the chat. I'll respond to you. I always reach out and respond on social media, but you got to like, share, and subscribe and follow if you want that interaction. Cool? All right. Let's bounce back. We're going to bounce back to basketball, to the NBA. Okay. So we're going to talk about the top 5 NBA playoff performances of all time. Okay. I know y'all looking down at the ticker, you see the names, but you don't know what games I'm going to talk about or what context we're going to put those in. Okay. But the top 5 playoff performances, it only makes sense to talk about it because we've had some great playoff performances this season. And it just had me thinking, what are some of the best playoff performances of all time? So I wanted to go ahead and make a list and talk about each and every one of them. So here we go. At number 1, Earvin Magic Johnson. All right. This is the greatest playoff performance of all time for a number of reasons, right? And a lot of these that are on this list are because of circumstance, situation, what needed to be done to win. So I'm going to get into it. So at number 1, Magic Johnson, 1980 NBA Finals against Philly. Game 6, they fly to Philly. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's hurt, doesn't play. So this is the game where Magic Johnson has to play center. He wins the jump ball or does the jump ball against Darryl Dawkins. All right, had a monster game, 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and they win the championship. And oh, by the way, he was a rookie. All right. And so this is the famous, call where they say, Magic Johnson starts the game at center, plays forward and guard, and they show him celebrating. Greatest NBA playoff performance of all time. Number 1, Magic Johnson. At number 2, Michael Jordan, the flu game or the food poisoning game. Whatever you want to call it, flu game sound better. So we're going to keep it at that. But this was game 5, 97 NBA Finals against Utah. Series tied 2-2. Jordan sick all day, didn't go to shoot around, couldn't get out of bed, made it to the gym, dropped 38 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. The Bulls won 90-88. He dropped 38 of those points and played 44 minutes, right? Look at him on the sideline. He's half dead, not even listening to Phil Jackson. And then after the timeout, he just woke back up, drunk some Gatorade, went out and balled. So to do that in the NBA Finals, series tied 2-2, where most people probably wouldn't even played in this game. Not only did he play, he went out and played one of his greatest games ever. And it was in an NBA Finals. The Bulls closed it out in 6 in Chicago after that. That was the tipping point of the series. If Utah wins that game, ain't no telling what history would do. But MJ said, nah, not today. At number 3, LeBron James. All right. This is probably one of my favorite LeBron games ever, right? And on this list, this is the only game that was not an NBA Finals game. And the reason why I prefaced the beginning of this segment by saying context is because this game was the tipping point for his legacy. And I don't think I'm overstating by saying that, right? This was in 2012, the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston, right? Game 6. So to put this in context, he had been swept in the finals in 2007 with Cleveland. They formulate the big 3, 2010, 2011. They go to the finals, lose to Dallas. He doesn't have a great NBA Finals. They're back in the playoffs the next season. They're down 3-2, right? If they lose this series, if the Heat lose this series, they break up the big 3, right? It didn't work. They did all this to bring it together, and then they lose a final the first year and then don't even make it back the second year. So the pressure that is put on LeBron James to perform and get out of this series was probably the most pressure he's ever had in his basketball career. And the performance he put on was incredible. 45 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, right? And won the game. They were down 3-2. He tied it, put the series at 3-3. They go back to Miami, win a game 7. But just, I've never seen him look like this before, and probably haven't seen him look like this since. He looked like a man possessed, not a smirk on his face. Boston could do nothing with him. I mean, this was literally the greatest basketball game I'd ever seen LeBron James play, right? And his greatest playoff performance. And I think if you ask him, he'd probably say it was too, right? Even though they went down 3-1 against Golden State in his game 7, I think he would probably say, lie detector test, that game 6 in 2012 was the greatest basketball performance of his career. And it was a parallel of 2 different outcomes, right? If they lose that series, the Heat big 3 are broken up. But consequently, they win that series and broke up Boston's big 3. So a lot of storylines, a lot of narratives. Number 3, LeBron James. At number 4, Allen Iverson, AI, right? One of my favorites. 2001 NBA Finals against the Lakers, Game 1 in LA. The year AI won MVP, right? They go into LA. This year, LA was trying to go back-to-back, and they obviously did. Y'all know the history. But what made this game so special, the Lakers were undefeated in the playoffs up until this point. And they wanted to be the greatest playoff team in NBA history and go undefeated in the playoffs. And AI went into LA and dropped, what he dropped, 44 on them? 48, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, right? In overtime. Even with all that, that's how great this Laker team was. Even with all that and a step over Ty Lue, still had to beat them in overtime. But that is the one game that Lakers team lost, and it was to AI in LA. He went crazy out there. One of the greatest playoff performances, especially by a small guard. Remind me of Isaiah Thomas against the Lakers back in the 80s. He dropped 25 points in one quarter on a broke foot. And this was very similar to that. So AI, definitely number 4 on the list. And then number 5, might be a surprise to most people. I'm sure y'all see in the list, like, how'd Jimmy Butler get on there? But y'all got to remember this game. All right. It's the most recent out of the games, too. In the bubble, 2020, against the Lakers, the Miami Heat were down 3-1. All right. We thought this series was over. First of all, didn't nobody expect Miami to even get to the finals. They got there, down 3-1. Jimmy Butler played the greatest game he's ever played in his career, and it came in the finals, right? Obviously, the Lakers ended up winning the finals, but Jimmy Butler, Game 5, 2020, Heat down 3-1. Jimmy goes for 35, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, right? 5 steals, and played 47 out of 48 minutes to push the series to 6 games. One of the greatest performances of Jimmy Butler's life. If y'all remember the images of him kind of hunched over on the scores table on the out of bounds, on the bench out of bounds, went all out, gave it everything he had. Great game. Like I said, 35-point triple-double, went 5 steals, and played damn near every minute of that game, 47 out of 48 minutes, Jimmy Butler. So that's the top 5 greatest playoff performances of all time by the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. Magic Johnson, 1980, 42, 15, 7, and 3 steals, rookie year. MJ, flu game, Game 5 of the NBA Finals in 97, dropping to 38. LeBron James, his greatest basketball game of his career, basically tilted the legacy of LeBron James in that Game 6 against Boston. Down 3-2, he had a monster game. So 45, 15, and 5. Allen Iverson stepping over Ty Lue, 2001. And then Jimmy Butler with a triple-double to stave off elimination in the bubble. All right. So that's my list. Y'all let me know what y'all think of those top 5. Again, be sure to comment below. Let me know what you think. If you have a list, or if I need to knock somebody off, or if you want to switch some of these lists around, be my guest. But let me know in the comments. All right. Cool. So again, the X-Factor Sportz Podcast every Wednesday night on YouTube and audio platforms. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Tune into the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. All right. Before we get up out of here, we're going to finish it off with the 2-minute warning. We're going to get into becoming the best version of yourself. Okay. So when you are on the path of becoming the best version of yourself, you are going to have to say goodbye to a lot of things. All right. So becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes. And it's not necessarily a lot of goodbyes to people. It's a lot of goodbyes to bad habits. A lot of goodbyes to toxic relationships, self-doubt, a lot of negative, a lot of anxiety. That's what I mean by when I say there's going to be a lot of goodbyes. So it's just not to physical people. It's saying a lot of goodbyes to yourself as well. So on that path to personal growth or being the best version of yourself, if you feel like you're not the best version of yourself now, you obviously have to get rid of some things that are going on in your life today. So that's going to require cutting ties from things, right? If you're trying to get in shape, you're trying to be the best version of yourself physically, you're going to say goodbye to junk food or goodbye to drinking, right? Goodbye to staying up to 2 a.m. and getting into the good habits, good eating right and exercising, right? If you are trying to become the best version of yourself spiritually, you got to kind of get rid of or say goodbye to some of the bad habits that don't help your spiritual walk. And then toxic relationships, obviously people, whether it's family members, whether it's friends or a relationship you're in, if it's not suitable for the betterment of yourself, you're going to have to get comfortable with saying those goodbyes and even saying no to your comfort zone, because it's going to require you getting out of it, right? A lot of uncomfortable situations will have to be dealt with in order to get to that best version of yourself. So ultimately, it's about just creating a space of new opportunities and more authentic self. So be sure to think about that. You know, if you're in a space now where you're trying to find the best version of yourself, you have to be comfortable with saying goodbyes. All right. This is Jay Mondaine of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast. Appreciate y'all for tuning in tonight to episode 86. If you like the gear, the new screen printed hoodies and sweatshirts, be sure to click the QR code, or you can catch Jay Mondaine and go to social media, hit me up, my direct message, or just straight on the page. Let me know what your shirt sizes are, your hoodie size, sweatshirts, colors, any of those things. Also the hats. We still got a couple of these left over too, but let me know what you like. We'll make sure we can get that out to you. All right. Again, thank y'all for tuning in. We are looking forward to next week. NBA Finals, NHL Finals will be on deck. We'll have some more Major League Baseball talk. We'll also get into Caitlin Clark, the injury, what happens to the Indiana Fever, how's that season going to go, and who leapfrogs her as the MVP favorite. All right, this is Jay Mondaine of the X-Factor Sportz Podcast signing out. Peace.